The following lesson is linked to Learning Outcome 2, Reading and Viewing, and addresses the assessment standard that requires learners to explore and explain key features of texts and how they contribute to meaning. Learners should be able to identify and explain the purpose, structure, and language use in texts across the curriculum, recognize the writer's and/or the character's viewpoint, and give supporting evidence from the text. Hi, I'm Becky. Welcome to the next lesson in our English series on reading newspapers. Today our main focus is going to be on reviews. So to get into the swing of things, we asked some learners to give us their opinions. As you listen to these informal reviews, try to work out what is being reviewed and whether the person speaking is positive or negative about it.
My favorite South African soapie would be Ikoli. Because I think it shows a lot for what South Africans think and how they act, and it shows that we are building up.
Soapies that I like on TV, I think, would be Days of Our Lives, because I think that soapie is quite interesting and it has a lot of action-packed drama. The actors are well performers and they do it to the best of their ability. Now, soapies that I don't like on TV would be, for instance, Passions or Backstage. I think that the acting is very, very childish and they don't have enough practice in it. And yeah, so I think that those are the soapies that I like and dislike.
Soapies are exactly like movies, but cheaper. The acting is cheap, everything's cheap. I dislike soapies a lot.
We like to give our opinions about books we've read, films or television shows we've seen, and restaurants we've eaten at. We also like to hear what others think, because this will help us to decide if something is worth trying for ourselves. When opinions are given formally, they are known as reviews. And today, that is what we are going to be focusing on. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the intention of the review, tell the difference between subjective and objective writing, identify the techniques used in writing a review. In the newspaper, you will be able to find people's opinions on all sorts of things. Here are some examples of the types of reviews that appear in the Sunday Times. Movie reviews, music reviews, motoring reviews, restaurant reviews, fashion reviews, book reviews. So, you're probably thinking, what's the big deal? A review is simply somebody saying what they think about something. But actually, it turns out that there is more to the review than there seems at first. To tell us a bit more, we went to speak to Richard Gola at the Sunday Times. He is the editor of the Sunday Times magazine. I'm sure some of you have seen the magazine before, but just in case you haven't, we asked Richard to tell us a bit more about his section of the newspaper.
Sunday Times magazine is South Africa's #1 TV guide. Basically, it's a weekly guide to what to watch on TV. It also includes reviews, a movie feature, crosswords, and puzzles.
When we discovered that Richard is in charge of the magazine, we realized that he would be the perfect person to tell us a bit more about reviews. This is what he said.
The intention of the review is to inform people what's out there, but also to let them make up their own minds. A review is not gospel. I think at the end you start following certain reviewers if you respect their opinion. And we do make sure in the Sunday Times magazine we've got good reviewers who do know their field. And you don't necessarily have to agree with them, but if you know that they know what they're talking about, I think that's what makes the difference.
We also asked Richard what it takes to write a good review.
When it comes to review, you have to, I think, firstly have an open mind. It's partly factual, but you do have to bring in your opinion, and you have and you have to not be afraid to express your opinion. I think that's the most important thing. You have to really stick your head out, and if you find fault with either a film or a book or a CD, you really have to express it.
We also asked Richard's colleague Bongani Madondo, who is the editor of the lifestyle section of the Sunday Times, what he thinks are the steps to writing a good book review.
Well, you have to get the basics first. Who wrote this book? What is their career? How has their career been up to the point that they've written this book? Who publishes this book? How much? The idea of writing a book review is not to indulge yourself as a reviewer, but to get the book bought or not bought. So we get the basics first, get them out of the way. Then after that, you have to check into the meat, the body, the flesh, the soul, and the blood of the story that this writer, this author, has presented in their books. You dabble with the subject, you get with it, and then you write your own opinions, perceptions about this book.
One thing to remember is that the same basic rules for a good review apply whether you're writing a book review, a film review, a music review, or even a review about a restaurant. Let's make a list of things to remember when writing a review. First of all, you should know the material you are reviewing. Even if you have made up your mind that the book is boring by page 3 or that the CD is terrible when you've only heard the first track, you should show respect for the people who created it and to your audience by finishing watching, listening to, or reading the subject of your review. The next step is to do some background research. If you do some reading about the subject, it will make you better able to comment on the value of what you're reviewing. Doing research is also a vital step to help you understand more about the person who has either written the book, made the movie, or recorded the CD. For example, if it is somebody's first ever CD and they have recorded it in someone's garage with their own money, you will have a slightly different attitude to if the artist is a multi-million-dollar star. You also have to have some background knowledge of the field in general. For example, if you have never listened to hip-hop in your life, how could you write a review with any expertise? A good reviewer should make comparisons with other artists and other similar projects. And you need to know the field to be able to do this. The next golden rule for reviewing writing is describe and explain what you're reviewing, but never ever give away the plot. So, for example, if you are reviewing a film, you can give a short summary of the characters and the story, but don't say they all die in the end. Nobody will want to see a film or read a book if you've told them that everything happens, especially if it is a thriller. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, give your own opinion, but be able to substantiate it. A review is all about one person's opinion. It's a subjective piece of writing, and even though it's all about what the reviewer thinks, it is really important that the reviewer is able to give reasons and justifications for each opinion. While you're giving your opinion, remember to be fair as well. There must be some good points to balance the bad, and the reviewer's opinion needs to take both sides into account. Let's look at an example of a review from the Sunday Times to see if the reviewer has stuck to the golden rules of reviewing. This extract is taken from a review of a film called The Great Raid by Barry Ronga, but due to length we have had to cut his review in some places.
John Dahl's splendid film focuses on men who are committed soldiers, who act with courage in situations of madness, where the only hope of survival lies in doing your duty. It recreates a World War II raid by US Army Rangers and Filipino guerrillas, who rescued more than 500 Americans from a Japanese prisoner of war camp at Cabanatuan. The Japanese were losing the war and they despised the soldiers they had captured. With a first-rate cast led by Benjamin Bratt, James Franco, Joseph Fiennes, and Martin Chokash, and with skillful use of actual newsreel footage intercut with staged events, the film gives us a sense of just how valorous these soldiers and prisoners actually were. There's no propagandist flag waving in this film, just a powerful drama about good men doing their duty in a terrible time. And like Saving Private Ryan, it's a war movie classic.
First of all, the reviewer obviously stayed and watched the whole film, maybe even more than once. Do you think the reviewer has done some research into the subject of war, as well as the actors and directors? Does he compare the film to similar films to make a point? Here we see the reviewer gives us some historical background to help us understand the film's context. The reviewer also gives us information about the cast and some of the film techniques used, and then shows us his expertise by comparing it to another well-known war film. I think that we can say that the reviewer did do some research. Now let's think if he was able to describe and explain the film for us without giving away the story.
It recreates a World War II raid by US Army Rangers and Filipino guerrillas, who rescued more than 500 Americans from a Japanese prisoner of war camp at Cabanatuan. The Japanese were losing the war and they despised the soldiers they had captured.
I think so. We have a rough idea what the film is about, but we don't know the ending. Finally, we need to ask if the reviewer gave his opinion and substantiated it. Let's listen to it again.
John Dahl's splendid film focuses on, with a first-rate cast led by Benjamin Bratt. There's no propagandist flag waving in this film, just a powerful drama about good men doing their duty in a terrible time. It's a war movie classic.
Yes, Barry Ronga gives us his opinion that this is an excellent military drama with a first-rate cast and that it's going to be a war movie classic. And he tells us enough about the film to make us think his opinions are justified so that we can also tick this one off our list. Before we go into the task for today, here is our diagram showing the objectivity or subjectivity of a piece of writing. Where would you place the review on this line? This review is quite subjective because it gives a lot of opinions. Barry Ronga thought the film was great, but you could watch it and think it was terrible. However, the review isn't completely subjective. What the film is about and who acts in it are facts. So, that is why reviews are not all the way on the subjective side of our graphic. By now you should have a good idea about how to go about writing a review. So, here is a task for today. Think about a movie you have seen, a book you have read, a song you've heard on the radio, or even a television program you might have seen. Think about all the advice that we have heard from the professionals in this lesson. Use it to write a short review of not more than 100 words, giving your opinion and recommendations or criticisms. That's it for today. See you for our next lesson that deals with writing based on personal points of view, the newspaper opinion piece. From me, Becky, until next time, goodbye.